introduce 3 of ISA's staff members that are in charge of 3 different distinct groups. One is KJ Johnson, Director of Government Relations and Strategy. The other one is Todd Main, Director of Market Development, and our own Abigail Peterson, who is Director of Agronomy. Today they will provide you with an overview of all the things they do at ISA and try to show us how things are going to work. So, without further ado, I'll introduce KJ to the stage and let's start learning. Thanks, KJ.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? We staying warm. It's hard to do, especially here in East Central Illinois. I am new with ISA. Some of you guys know me, some of you don't. I'm KJ Johnson. I formerly was the president of the Illinois Fertilizer and Chemical Association, was with IFCA for more than 13 years, last 4 being president. Before that, I worked for Congressman Tim Johnson here in Washington, D.C., doing his agriculture stuff, and I've had 2 great bosses, learned under Tim and under Gene Payne, and then it's given me this great opportunity to do this job. I got a call from John. John's in the back room, and I just want to thank him for, he gave me a call in November saying this opportunity was opening up, and I appreciate him having the full confidence in me to take on this new role and to lead Illinois soybean farmers. I do have farming in my background. I actually farm with my father and 2 brothers here right in Champaign and Vermilion County North. We farm pretty much from Rantoul, work on 136, east in the Vermilion County. So I feel like I got some of the same interests you guys have, knowing what the fight is on the farm, what the economics of the farm is, and I hope to bring that to you guys when we talk to legislators running the Government Fair program. I do want to recognize a couple people on my team. I don't know if they're all in here. Matt Johnson, raise your hand. David Kubik in back. Ashley Berry's actually in the room. And then Corey Lacey. Colin Cisco's not here today. Give those guys a round of applause because they work very hard on your guys' behalf. I got a great team, and there's going to be a lot of stuff going on this year. We'll see how much of it actually moves at the end of the day. But we'll go from there. Is this slide clicker? I didn't think about it. Is this slide clicker up here? Just trying to think. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is just some of the national politics of what's going on, and then some of the state politics and what ISA is working on your guys' behalf, just some of the key issues. So first one, let's talk about farm assistance. I don't think any farmer in this room wants to say we're going to take farm assistance. We want to get it from the marketplace. But what the economics of stuff is, there is going to be a farm assistance. We're below cost of production right now what we're getting from the market. So there was released in early December that there will be a $30.88 payment. That is far below, like we said, the average cost of a $58 loss right now. There is some talk out there that there might be another payment ahead. Some House Democrats have put out a plan for a $17 billion plan. House Republicans have put out something for a $15 billion plan. We'll see what that actually pertains to from there. But there is at least a talk that there might be something more than what is out there right now. Again, we all want it to come from the market, not from USDA or the government, but this will help stem that gap where guys are at right now. Let's talk about the next thing, the farm bill. Are we going to do a skinny farm bill? If you would have asked me when the first week I started with ISA in December, I'd have said it's a hard sell. But there is some talk about doing a skinny farm bill starting here in the next couple weeks. The talk is that they could do something by the end of February, 1st of March. That is from the House Republicans. G.T. Thompson out of Pennsylvania has been talking about this. We'll see. It all depends on what goes on here from now to then. I hate to say things that are going on in Minnesota or any other sidebar conversations. stuff with President Trump or anything else might sway some of that, but the committee seems very poised to do something on a skinny farm bill. What I mean by that is some of the other titles, not the big titles. Most of the big titles, crop insurance, commodity, stuff like that, the food in a sense, or the food stamps, were all done in the big beautiful bill, whatever you want to call it. But all the other stuff, more, not say minor, there's nothing minor about the farm bill and the other titles, but some of the stuff that is not gets much more attention is being talked about in the skinny farm bill. So we hope to push something like that. We are going out to Washington, D.C. in a couple weeks to talk to the legislators. We're already talking to the legislators what that skinny farm bill might look like coming ahead. Again, it's going to start in the House, move to the Senate. The Senate hasn't made any comment yet. I think the Senate is waiting to see if they can actually move something in the House. The biggest thing that will happen, and we'll talk about this if you're a D.C. nerd like me or a nut, finding time on the House floor. That is the biggest thing. So we get it through committee, but can they get it to the House floor? Next thing, favorite topic we always want to talk about, tariffs. As you guys know, April 1, President Trump put out some stuff regarding tariffs on everything. I can just tell you this on the tariffs. The administration feels very strong on tariffs. My previous job before this with Fertilizer and Chemical Association, there was different meetings with the administration, what happens with tariffs. Maybe they back off. It's just a leveraging tool. I would tell you there are very, very many people inside the administration and the president feels strong that tariffs are the answer on a lot of this stuff. Here are some of the countries, or not anything that is colored, are countries that the president has put something out on tariffs. Now, it's a wide range of what those tariffs are, but there's a big one. I would tell you a couple of the biggest ones we watch is Canada. I don't know. Anybody want to take a guess? I'll throw it out there. How much of potash that is used in the United States comes out of Canada? $85% of all potash that's coming here is through Canada. I would tell you if you go to the western part of the Saskatchewan area, that is where most of the potash is coming from. We don't have a better friend than we do in Canada on a lot of these issues. So when they talked about a 25% tariff, that's all going to get passed down. The other two that I think you need to be really watching, and I'll talk about this more in a second, on pesticides is China, but India. A lot of the AIs, and I got another slide to show this. But this just came out a little bit ago. I think this week I had put it into some of our board meetings packet earlier, that the administration came out and said that on agricultural goods, on the tariffs, so what they collected back on tariffs on agricultural goods is close to $1 billion. $1 billion. Actually, $958 million. 530 million of that is from farm equipment. 273 million is coming out of farm chemicals. So when anything comes out of India or China, that's what the tariff is. I would have thought this is a little higher, but 110 million is coming on fertilizer and $44 million is coming on seed. Now, I hate to say that. I used to work for the industry. It all gets passed down the line. That is a tax on every grower with these tariffs. So again, it does come back down to us. Just be watching some of that stuff. Where tariffs goes from here, I don't know. I wish I had a great answer to say, but I would just say that the administration proves very firm on where they see tariffs are at. Here's another great illustration of what's going on. I know this is kind of hard to see, but you have the top line is agrichemicals. That's your already in the bottle, already formulated. Most of that is coming out of the European Union, China, stuff like that. The one I tell people to look at is that bottom chart. That's AI, active ingredients. Those are the building blocks to build a chemical to the end process. As you see, China, European Union, and India, the biggest one. I will tell you from my previous job, most of the chemical companies are very much worried to see what a tariff comes on India. They know what's going on with China. But a lot of AIs are coming out of India. If there's a tariff, and again, those AIs come into the States for them to be completely formulated here in the U.S., What does that look like? What does the price look like? I'm hoping most of those products are already starting to be in the marketplace or in the supply chain. But if something comes out of India, I think it will definitely affect what's coming out on like your fungicides, your later season products. So just be aware of this. If you look at the chart, if you look at this, if the tariffs go on right now, the top line, glyphosate and Roundup, that's $170 million at the end of the day. If you look at dicamba, 2,4-D, that's $90 million. It is just on tariffs that are going out there. So just put that out to you guys. They're going to keep watching tariffs. Again, this is not very much going on with congressional action. It is all about what the administration is doing. Okay, let's talk biofuels. A lot of stuff going on with biofuels. I started putting this together a couple days ago, but this has already changed. I don't know if you guys heard or not. The president is in Iowa today, making his rounds. There is talk that he might release some information on biofuels. One thing is the 45Z rule. Our understanding, the intel we're getting, is that those rules are done but just have not been released. There is some talk that those rules might be released today when he is in Iowa. We will have to see. That is very important to see where those are at. The other thing that is going on is the E15 bill nationally. Last week, I would have told you, last Monday, was talking with some of our corn friends. They were very, pretty high that a year-round E15 would be passed. I'll tell you, some monkey wrenches got thrown into that, and it did not get in the CR. And the CR is the continuous resolution to fund the government every year. So everything in D.C. is up to a pinch point. When is there pressure to get something done? Again, I think our corn friends were pretty positive that they thought was going to get something done, and then that got pulled from the rug last week. I will tell you, National Corn Growers, if you watch any of their comments, are pretty down on stuff from there. Now the talk is they're going to have a working group with the ethanol industry and the petroleum industry to try and come up with something. Our talk is that we just want to be in the room when those conversations are happening for a longer scale to help something on biodiesel. So it's an ongoing story, but we'll go from there. The other thing, the chief economist for the president is Mr. Navarro. He had some comments earlier in January saying that we need to process stuff more here. Not just send beans over, whole beans over to China, but process here and then send them the meal and the oil. And that got some reaction, but it is just out there. Another big thing that has happened in D.C. that I don't know if everybody realizes is you have Northern Pacific and Norfolk Southern that are trying to do a merger. How many of you guys heard about that? Okay, that has to go through the Surface Transportation Board to get approved. Here in the last week, Surface Transportation Board said, no, you don't have all the information, or we're kind of nixing that for right now. Both groups can come back to Surface Transportation Board here in another 90 days to try and re-get that merger going. But I will tell you, if Surface Transportation Board nixes it the first time and asks for additional information, it's very unlikely that they will do that, to redo that. Now, I mean, they won't, but I will tell you the Chubs are very much against them to get that merger done. There's different opinions out through the industry if this is good, this is bad. I don't know if most people realize this. Illinois has the most railroad miles in the state of Illinois. Everything on railroads intersects someplace here in Illinois. So we are watching that very closely. We have not taken a stance, but we're just watching it. And ASA is kind of taking the same opinion, is to see what happens with this merger, the talks. I think everybody will still have that opinion since Surface Transportation Board came out asked for more information on that. Next thing I want to talk to you guys about is Supreme Court and Bayer. This is a huge issue nobody's talking about. So how many of you guys know that Bayer is getting sued pretty much every day from somebody regarding Roundup? Anybody want to take a guess how many lawsuits are out there on Roundup right now? 65,000. Not 65, 65,000. Bayer has already paid out $11 billion on those claims. What they're asking the Supreme Court to do is FIFRA is the governing body of all pesticides through US EPA. EPA has not put a warning label saying it is not cancers causing or anything like that. What they're asking for is that they can't be resued if EPA has not put that warning label out there. I will tell you, everybody down in St. Louis, tied with Bayer, is watching this very closely. It will be heard by the Supreme Court sometime this spring. They do not tell us, hey, it's going to be the third week of February, stuff like that. But what usually happens is Supreme Court has cases all spring long, and then usually the last week of June, first week of July, they just dump all the what their decisions are. It's not one after, but it's just the massive dump of court. But the Supreme Court has said that they will hear this case. So there's going to be a big decision on that, probably the end of the week of June, what happens with some of this lawsuit stuff and what happens with FIFRA long term. Other thing I want to put out there, there's some just actions that we're waiting for EPA to make. Dicamba, I think that you probably hear a decision. We keep on hearing every 2 weeks it's going to come out. I think there will probably be a dicamba label for 26. I would tell you, I think, talking to our friends at the Illinois Department of Ag, they will really put back the restrictions, what they have, because it's already in rules. And if those go in place, that would be a June 20th cutoff and a forecasted high of 85 degrees. So if it is 75 degrees at 9 o'clock, but it's supposed to be 89 that day, it is a do not spray. But it does go back to June 20th. So I just put that out there. I think you will hear something in the next couple weeks. Again, as I've told EPA and our friends, we need something now. These decisions, I hate to say, just like you guys, most of our buying decisions are the last week of December, first week of January. We already know baked in the cake what we're going to use for trades. So again, get that out sooner rather than later. Another fun topic, MAHA. How many of you guys have heard of MAHA? Make America Healthy Again. This is definitely a push from RFK, but I would tell you he has a very big ear to the president. I would tell you from good sources from the president, he thinks RFK pushed him over the edge in the election. So RFK does have an ear to the president. It is starting nationally, but I will tell you what is going on is I don't think anything nationally is going to happen with MAHA. It's going to be kicked to the states. And I'm going to sort of go to slide 0. There are already states that have MAHA legislation in them. Texas passed something, Louisiana passed something, Pennsylvania didn't pass something, but it is being kicked around out there. I can tell you MAHA is not just one thing. Pesticides in it, but it's about oils, dyes, food dyes, stuff like that. It is a grander scheme of what that is. Now I want to go back to one slide that I didn't hear before to the states. Another association kind of put some of these talking points together, but I can 100% agree because it hits. It is a movement, not a moment. I will tell you, some of our southern friends down in Mississippi tried to kind of do a block on MAHA. They ran into a buzzsaw from your local food mom, stuff like that. And that is a very red state. What I think you're going to see is very much deep red states are going to take up some of the MAHA movement stuff from here. Do I think it's going to come to Illinois? I never say never. I think pieces could come to Illinois, but I don't think that is the whole MAHA movement comes here. The reason I say that, Mr. Pritzker, the governor of the state of Illinois, is most likely probably going to run for president. I think anything that he's saying he's on the same page with Donald Trump on, probably he's not going to take that up. So I think you will see pieces of that, but I don't think you see the whole thing. So, lastly, let's talk Springfield. We are just getting into session in Springfield. We're just in the first 2 weeks. Bills are starting to get introduced. We will not have the full gamut of what all the legislation we're watching in Springfield till not this Friday, but next Friday. That is bill deadline for the House and Senate. But a lot of this stuff is focused on election year politics. The primary election is March 17th, that Tuesday. They're not in session a whole lot of days from here to March. But then there is the gauntlet from here to the end of May. Talking to the legislators, I think there's going to be some stuff out there just to talk about politics. I think the governor is going to lay out a groundwork for the budget. I do think revenue numbers are better than what they originally expected. But can JB keep a handle on some of those members of not trying to spend more than what is already out there? That is the biggest thing that the governor has to do, is just rein in legislators from not spending more than they're even allotted. But we're going to have the budget address is actually on February 18th. That will lay the groundwork of what the governor's looking for. I think, because he's probably looking to run in the next year or 2 years for president, I think he's going to work on the budget. That will be number one, and 2 or 3 other issues that has a national bent on it to run on. I don't think a lot of other big stuff is going to get done, but we'll just see what happens. Kind of touched on the budget. Let's talk about estate tax. As you guys know, ISA does have a estate tax bill that is out there. Bills we introduced last year can come over to this year. We are watching that. We know our Farm Bureau friends have a estate tax bill. I will tell you, and I've told our board and to John, our CEO, is that we will look at anything that can actually move at the end of the day. That's our plan. There's another plan. There's a lot of things of just trying to get everybody on the same page on this. I think this is one of the issues, and we're going to talk about another issue that's the same way. I'm not saying that a state tax bill passes this spring session, but we have fall veto session after the election and then lame duck session. I think that is going to be the main time when some of these pieces of legislation, the big ticket stuff, the big, if you want to say the bloated stuff, that takes a lot of stuff to get over. I think that is when you see those pass. Lastly, biofuels. I got to thank David Kubik on my staff. He's our biofuels expert. We did introduce a B20 piece of legislation that would have all our municipalities in the state of Illinois use B20 going into the future. It is not on privates. We're going to try and push that through. We have been working with the governor on that. Again, that might be a Christmas tree thing that we do at the end of the year, but we are going to keep pushing. We are always going to, at ISA, going to push for expanded uses for B20. There's some other renewable fuels stuff going on with the oil industry and our other commodity friends. I will tell you again, I think that is probably the end of the year, because that is a big thing on renewable fuels and what that looks like. Do we set a gold standard here in Illinois, what that looks like in the future? We'll have to see. Lastly, I just want to tell you guys we are watching some pesticide-related stuff. I'll tell you, anti-pesticide legislation in Springfield is being more and more. 2 things that is already out there that we are hearing is, one is a paraquat ban. And again, I'm not saying we love paraquat, but banning any pesticide here in the state of Illinois that's not based off USA or science-based, I think it's a slippery hill we go down. That means if we ban one product, then we're going to start banning other products. I will tell you, Administrator Zeldin at US EPA has already talked about doing something different with paraquat. I think that's the right avenue. But I think if we set that standard in Illinois that we're going to start banning products, it's going to be a slippery deal. This is getting pushed by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. I'll just leave it at that, and we'll go from there. The other piece of legislation that's out there that we're very concerned about is that it would ban any product, any chemicals that have PFAS going into the future. I would tell you this, there are some chemicals today that have PFAS in them. But if you talk to our chemical friends, long-term, any new products that come in are probably going to have a PFAS or something like that in there. So this is a thing that we'll be fighting down at Springfield. There will be other things. I guarantee there will be a dicamba ban, there'll probably be a Roundup ban, and there will probably be a seed treatment ban. So those are just things that we're going to watch, and then we'll keep you guys informed. Now, I do want to say some good news. One good news is out there. I would tell you, I don't know if Corey Lacey's in the room. Is he in the room or not? He helped me last year when I was with IFCA, but this is some good news. How many of you guys have your applicator license here in the state of Illinois? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you guys love taking that test every 3 years? Okay, raise them high. Dan Kelly, you probably like it. Yeah. Yeah. What we did with SB 783, and I got to thank him. He's in the back of the room. Jeremy Flynn from the Department of Ag for helping me walk through this and making this actually happen, is that we are going to bring where you can still take the test if you want to take it every 3 years, but long term, we'll be able to take continuous education classes to keep that license up. It's probably going to be 5 years. It's going to be a approved curriculum through the Department of Ag. And it's a good thing because I know not everybody's a test taker. I know I got the call from my father a few years ago before COVID, says, I'm not taking that test anymore. You boys can take that. Because it is not everybody knows that's not the easiest test in the world. But this is something that us in the Department of Ag worked through to get done. It probably does not happen. It is passed it's been signed by the governor. It will probably not get more implemented until late 27 or early 28, just because we got to do the rulemaking and everything through this. But I think this is a good thing for everybody in Illinois agriculture. Last two things, and we're going to get you out of here, and I'm going to turn it over to Todd. We do have a lobby day on February 18th. That is the state budget, but we're going to do just some talks with legislators. If you would like to sign up, get on the QR code and sign up for that. We'd love to have you up there. And lastly, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is be an Illinois soybean grower member. It is very important to us. We do have the checkoff, and that is great. But as a membership, all organizations, the lifeblood is their membership. This helps us with our PAC and everything else we do that cannot be funded by the checkoff. So it's very important. I ask every farmer to be I'm a member before this, but it's so important to be a member of all organizations, especially the Soybean Association. So if you're not, click on that. That will take you right to the website, and you can be a member there. So lastly, I just thank you guys for this opportunity. Where is Todd Main at? See, Todd is right back. I am going to introduce Todd and bring him up stage, and he is going to talk about some market development. So let's give a nice warm applause for Todd.
Well, we should also give a warm applause for KJ and all this great stuff he brings. So thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about market development. What we're going to do this year is a little different. We aren't going to talk so much about what we've done, but we're going to kind of take a forward look and talk about what the checkoff and what Illinois Soy is doing for you. And I want to take a minute and introduce a transportation initiative that we're about to launch in the next couple months. As you all know, transportation is really it's really key for what we do once we grow the soybeans. And after doing some analysis, we came to the conclusion that transportation really is our global competitive advantage. Illinois has a transportation system that is unlike anywhere in the world. And we have made investments over the years to build that transportation system. And I would argue that our economy is benefiting from the investments that were made in our transportation system. However, we know that future trade is going to be different than what it is going to be right now. The markets that we serve today are going to be different, and it's going to change, and there are going to be some new markets that we don't ship anything to right now. But we need to be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities. And we need to, here in Illinois, make investments in our infrastructure, whether that's the waterways, the highways, the railways, et cetera, et cetera. So let me just give you some of the reasons why we are taking a look at transportation. So this first chart is going to show the global value of ag shipments for all commodities since 2012. 2014, I think. 2017. So if you notice the big line at the top, that's soy. Soy is the #1 ag export in the country and has been and will be for a long time. So where do we send all that soy? Well, here's a map that shows you where it is. KJ talked about potash in Canada. Canada is also an important trading partner for us for soy. And Mexico, also another big trading partner for soy. In fact, Mexico has become the largest buyer of soybean oil in the world, most recently in the last couple months. Here's soy oil. Some new faces there. India, becoming a big buyer of soy oil. Also, North Africa, big buyer of soy oil, and Mexico and Canada. So this is something that I think we sort of don't think about often enough, but we really do need to think about, and that is the idea that demographics are destiny. And we talk a lot now about China. China's dominated the news. I can't tell you how many interviews we did in the fall about China. Whether they're buying, they're not buying, why aren't they buying, what are the tariffs going to be, back and forth, yada, 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 yada. Well, China's going to be important for us for a long time. But those of you who may remember, they put a one-child policy in China, a couple decades ago, and that's baked into their demographics. And so what you see on this chart is the lower curve shows what their population is going to do, over the next 50, 60 years. And on the low end, they could lose 487 million people because of that demographic decision they made a couple decades ago. On the high end, they could lose 750,000 people. So regardless of what happens with the tariffs and the short-term back and forth and all of this, China is not going to be our long-term solution, ever. Because the demand isn't going to be there because their population isn't going to be there and they aren't going to need the same amount of soybeans. So we've got to, in our own self-interest, start to diversify our thinking. So where is the growth going to come from? Well, we're going to get 100 million new people, in the North America, South America region. We're going to get 500 million people in Southeast Asia. But we're going to get a lot of people in North and Sub-Saharan Africa. That's where the growth is going to come from. And so we've got to understand that we got to be in those markets. And there are challenges like we haven't faced in any markets yet. But we got to get out there and start thinking about it. And here's just another chart that shows that. Well, how are we going to meet this changing demand? Well, population isn't only the thing that we have to consider. Well, we've got to consider that our transportation system is not only reliable, but it's resilient. So if we're shipping more beans to Africa, that means we're shipping them to the East Coast. And how are we getting them to the East Coast? And how are we doing it efficiently? Are we shipping them by rail down to Virginia and South Carolina? Or are we shipping them by boat out through the St. Lawrence Seaway? Depending on where those markets are, we've got to start to think about this. We've got to grow our homegrown utilization of soy and also in our emerging markets. And we've got to expand new uses, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we started thinking about transportation, and we thought 2050 might be a good marker because it takes a long time to build anything in this country because we got to get the public support for it, then we got to get the money, and then we've got to get the folks to build it. But we started looking at yield growth, and so if we look at historic yield growth, just on what the numbers have been recently for soy and corn and wheat, we've also got to move a lot more than what we're currently moving right now. 64% more soy, 52% more corn, 43% more wheat. Well, we got to have an ag-centered transportation system. And for the first time in Illinois, we're going to challenge our elected officials and the folks at IDOT to say, look, agriculture is and will continue to be one of the largest sectors of the economy. The transportation system needs to support that system, and we need to make the investments to do that now. And so for the last couple of years, we've been planning this and looking at it. And so the first thing that we did was we did an asset map. So we took a computer map and we put every ag-related transportation asset on that map. And so every storage facility, every multimodal facility, every rail spur, every crush facility, every waterway, every dam, so that we could identify where all those assets are, what the condition of those assets are, and where we're going to go with them. And so once we got the mapping done, then we can start to think about doing an analysis and looking at where the growth is going to be internally, and do we have the assets in place to do that. And then we're going to go out and build public support for this. And so you'll hear more and more about this as we continue. Let me switch gears for a minute because I want to talk about another thing that we do that's really important in how we grow new and emerging markets. And we work in partnership with the folks at United Soybean Export Council and the World Institute on Soy and Human Health to educate buyers and industry members in those various markets around the world. One of the things that we do is we can say to them now, and this is an interesting chart because this is the first time we've ever been able to do this. You know, I go out and we not only host a lot of buyers groups from around the country, but we also travel to those and meet those buyers group in country. And you know, U.S. soy, U.S. soy, U.S. soy is great, and then the conversation gets a little thin, frankly. And so what we can say now is, look, if you use U.S. soy and you use it in animal production, animal ag, this happens to be aquaculture and tilapia, we can show you that because of the unique amino acid profile, because the way you guys handle the beans and the condition that they come into in country, if you use U.S. soy, even if you pay more, you get more on the back end in production. And that's the first time we've ever been able to say that. And that's because Illinois funded some of this research to make this possible. Here's another one for shrimp. Shrimp is a growing market, particularly in India and Ecuador, who are the two largest producers of shrimp. We can show the bottom line all the way down the supply chain, that if you use U.S. soy, it makes dollars and cents. The other thing that we do is we have funded and established what we call soy excellence centers. And these are essentially schools, college-level courses that teach mid-level professionals how to do what they do better. And the analogy that I use for this is that in Egypt, if you have 100 chickens running around in your backyard, we can tell you if you do X and Y and Z and P and D and Q, you can have 1,000 chickens in a birdhouse and have biosecurity protocols and dramatically change your operation. And because we have done that, they use more U.S. soy. And so we do this in 7 centers around the country in about 70 countries. And over the last 3 years, we have trained 50,000 people in aquaculture, poultry production, feed milling, and related animal ag. And here's a class of folks. These are from the new center that we launched 2 years ago in India. And these people come out of these seminars because they don't have the secondary education that we have in this country. Nobody has ever given them the opportunity to use the best in class, the best information, so that they can grow. And it changes their lives, and it changes how they think about U.S. and about U.S. farmers. And here's the proof in the pudding. So about 6 years ago, we funded, at the start of Illinois, using your checkoff dollars, funded the startup of an SEC in Egypt. And in 2015, we shipped 3,500 metric tons total. And last year, we were up over 1 million metric tons because of the demand in Egypt for poultry and aquaculture. And then let me switch gears one more time, and I want to talk about something that some of the folks in this room dreamed up a couple years ago that is really starting to generate some fruit, and I think is going to be something you're going to hear a lot about this year. I know it is. So we've all heard about new uses over the years, and biodiesel is the great success story of new uses. That all started because farmers got together and funded the research over time to develop that and go forward. And so the chairman of ISA at the time said, well, let's set up an innovation center to formalize this process so that we can fund the research and development and, more importantly, the commercialization of these new use products. And so we launched the Soy Innovation Center, and then last year launched the Springboard Challenge, which is a partnership with the public universities in Illinois to fund research about soy, to develop products that have a direct commercial application. What I can tell you is that in March of this year, we're going to have the second Springboard Challenge event. We are going to launch 2 of our first products into the marketplace. The first one of those, for those of you that will be at the board meeting, we will have samples of a biolubricant that you can use on heavy equipment, basically farm machinery, that will be ready to go that's based on soy. And more to come on this, but watch this space. Very exciting. The other thing that we've done is that in thinking about developing new markets for Illinois soy-based products, we launched the International Commercialization Initiative because we thought, instead of just thinking about selling to the markets here in this country, we have relationships that we've already established in all of these countries where we have markets, and particularly where we have SECs. So we are going to take the product of all of the R&D and commercialization that's done not only from Illinois, but from Ohio and from Missouri and from USB where it's appropriate, and talk to the folks who can use this, license this for development in those global markets. And we think that has real potential to dramatically advance the work that we're doing here. So just a little snapshot and a little sneak preview. Thank you very much. And it's my great pleasure to now introduce my colleague Abigail, who you all know, and you're in for a treat. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome on this cold January day. It's all good to see you. Glad you can make it in safely. I hope you all had a great harvest this last season, and April will be around the corner, so that's what our team is thinking about, and I'm excited for this new year, but also holding on to as much time as we can have because there's a lot to do and a lot going on. So today, I'm Abigail Peterson, the Director of Agronomy here at ISA, and I would love for you to take away from this presentation a little bit about what we are doing. I do want to make sure that you are focused and aware of what's currently happening, but also where we're going and how you can help us along on that journey. So with that, I will say I have limited time and I can't go through everything. I am lucky we had our Field Advisor Forum not just a week ago here in Champaign, which is all recorded. I hope some of you came, and even if you came and want to reference a talk that you saw, they're all recorded and available, CCA credits, CEUs available, but so many presentations, great speakers, a lot of good information. I can't review all of it. One thing that we have provided this year is our production booklet. So if you go out to the tables in the hallway at the Field Advisor table and our On-Farm Trial Network table, these are brand new. We really created this, everything we create as a team is in to deliver something to you that you've asked for. So this has all of my team's contact information, all of the committee's contact information. So when I'm in Southern Illinois and they said, who made that call? I'm like, call this guy right here. Or if you're wondering who your representative is closest to you, that is on our committee, you know that contact. If you want to know the partners we work with this year, if you want to know our budget, if you want to know where our money is going, if you want to know what our priorities are, our strategic plan, this is your reference guide, and I hope you do use this and read through it and keep it maybe tucked away in your desk somewhere that you can take out and look through, and always have someone on this agronomy team to call if you have questions in the field about our program, something you heard on the news. We're here to help. So with that, I will be referencing a lot of the things in here just briefly, so this will help you dive deeper. I've got a great team that we have grown over the few years here at ISA and still having more and more to do. I'm really excited that I get to work with this passionate team. I would love to stand up here and just gush over each and every one of them. Some of them are here today, so I encourage you, especially if you see us probably at our table or throughout the day, please stop, talk to us. We are very passionate about what we do because we either had mentors that led us here, we either come from our family farms, but really the passion comes from the farmers we work with and the feedback that we get, positive or negative. We are always interested in what we can do better and how we can build that ROI back for your checkoff and make sure that you are proud of your investment. Our team recently held a Growing Careers in Ag program. This is hosted also with Colleen Callahan, and this is where you have students who are in the community college journey, and they get to experience leadership within other industries or government jobs, and even if that could be retail and into banking and finances. Whatever the opportunity is, I feel like as a student today, there's too many avenues, there's too many things to get into, and where do you want to focus your studies? And that a lot of students that are going into these community colleges that have very strong ag programs, we host an opportunity for them to really have a one-on-one with all of these professionals who have diverse backgrounds. Whether you come from agriculture or not, we think it's a very strong initiative to make sure that we are growing our labor force here and that they are passionate about what they do, whether that's going back to their farm or having a job alongside as they are farming, which is more and more frequent. We want to have students stay in the state of Illinois, or if they go out and venture somewhere else, to come back and work here and build our strong ag network and community. So it's very exciting to work with those students, and for those students to also learn from the team we have here. We have some with an animal science background, agronomy backgrounds, those who've worked in industry for many, many years, communications, the list goes on and on. And so it's a very great privilege for us to work with students. As you saw Fred Belo up here, if you've ever seen him speak before, you know he spends generous time on slides and showcasing his students, his investment, and we find that as a passion of those students going through their college journey to have those mentors and to lead them into something within agriculture, and if it's soybeans that they find to be something of interesting to them, that they then meet those challenges, whether it be SCN, weed control, stewardship, what we're seeing in conservation. We need more passionate students to go into those job opportunities. if you are sitting here and thinking, this is what I've heard before, blah, 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 in the center of your tables, there is, on some of your tables, there's a tent with a QR code for our Growing Concerns survey. This we ask for every single year. Please take this survey. We actually have a board meeting next week where we have researchers coming in and we are diving deep into what strategy you want to take for next year's proposals. So we ask everything from what was your biggest challenge this year? Are you guys worried about red crown rot? Are you guys worried about maybe something that you're seeing that a guy is selling you biologicals and you've been doing it for 5 years, haven't seen any return, what's the point of this? Anything that you want to ask or see as a priority on your farm, we want to know, because we will be strategizing our RFPs for that, for this next funding cycle. And our committee does a lot. I mean, if you ask them, reading through all of those proposals takes time, and to know where we set those priorities, making sure that we have enough in weed control, in pest and management, but also in those resource concerns that are a huge priority for the state. How do we factor in all those priorities? We had 88 projects over $8 million come in last year, and we had to factor that down quite a bit to 2.8. And so your feedback is what really drives these projects to be valuable for you and make sure that your investment is being taken further. Within these photos, you can see here Brian Seaver sitting, as well as Steve Pitstick from Kane County, David Wessel from Cass County. They were sitting in on, we are trying to connect our researchers better with the farmers as much as we can. So, you know, whenever they're done in the field and when they're having that break in the season, we tackle them with come to U of I, come to the ISA agronomy farm, come to our field days, because it's not only we want you to sit there and learn and hopefully gain insights, challenge us, ask questions. You know, great, we have resistant weeds. Okay, we have resistant weeds. Weeds are a problem for everybody. What are we doing about it? What are you going to tell me about it? That's great that we can monitor and track how many more resistant weeds we're going to have. But what are the solutions that we're giving me? And here's the things that I have seen on my farm. So definitely come with the idea that you as farmers make an impact. Brady Holst up there from Hancock County over in Western Illinois drove one of our projects with his idea on genetic engineering with SCN management. So we connected him with Dr. Matt Hudson here from U of I, and there's a project developed straight from that idea. So if you're thinking you're a farmer and you don't have any impact on these projects, you do. And if you're sitting here thinking, wow, I kind of want to be in that room when that decision is made, or I kind of want to be on that, I really hope you consider thinking about the board or working with your local representative and asking them questions and getting connected. So there is not a lack of interesting things going on in agronomy. We have a lot of regional concerns across the state that may be an issue for you, but not someone up north or south. So we factor in a lot of making sure our projects are regionally practical. They have an economic piece factored in, and they can be applied. Working with Dr. Jessica Rukowski here at the University of Illinois, she has wheat varieties that she is studying for looking into the mature time and jointing time of how to better enhance double crop profitability and getting wheat across the landscape, diversifying your systems. I just looked at some of the Growing Concern Survey intake forms today, and diversifying crop productivity across the farm is coming in a lot. So as a Northern Illinois farm ourselves, we did our first crop of wheat this last year, sent it to CGB on the Hennepin River, made 120 bushel. And so we're wanting to think, how can this better diversify our farm? And not only that, from the profitability aspect, but from a resource concern, adding more root diversity and other cropping, breaking up the system really helps and advocate for keeping our soils and our resources as a priority and what we're trying to apply on the fields and making sure that we're still profitable. We take a whole system approach when it comes to cropping systems. We are soybeans, but we do talk about wheat and corn as well. We want you to be profitable across all those cropping systems, and we take that account when we're looking into our projects as well. Dr. Andrew Margonaut has had a project with us since 2023. It will be ending this year, and it really started when that boom came from the climate smart opportunities, as well as just the maybe misinformation around climate smart information. And so he has been putting together a measurable soil health water quality, and climate impact, tangible metrics to position sustainable characteristics of soybeans in the global marketplace. If you've seen Andrew Margonaut talk, he talked at the summit about liming recommendations. So not to switch topics, but his talk on liming recommendations was really good, and you had some really great questions from the crowd. But beyond that, his soil science background spans so much, and so his work within this impact of what a soybean is within this climate conversation is very important to have from an Illinois field. What you do here is very different than South Dakota and the North Dakotas, maybe where some models are coming from, or from California, or for what KJ needs when he's sitting in the room and they're saying, well, your crop makes this impact negative, and so this is how it's going to impact policy. You know, you need to have those numbers be representative of your fields in Illinois, of your cropping systems and your rotations. So that is a very exciting one, and working with Andrew is always a joy. We value our partners across the board. Your checkoff is only great, I feel like, as your partnerships and your resources. And so we want to make sure that we're expanding that, but as well as recognizing those who work with us. Like I said, our RFP season, our proposal season will be coming up next, so all of these who want to network with us and work with us. Recently, I went down to the wheat forum that was held down near Ida and Rend Lake there. It was a very good conversation about how to get better wheat agronomics built back up to what we expect from corn and soybeans. Dr. Connor Sybil had some great information and that you can find a lot, as well as Dr. Giovanni Presavantes, that he had just some farm doc information come out on double crop systems, full season soybeans, profitability, and what you can see there. So not a lack of partnership. We'd love to see more partnerships. I would hope that you know in this room that agronomy, these issues that we have across the state, it's not one organization that's going to solve all the problems or lead the crusade. It really takes a partnership. And you'll see on here nonprofits, universities, and others. We are non-biased in what we do, and we want to keep that pure to what we're communicating. So we definitely value these types of partnerships. Beyond that, how do we even strengthen your impact further? So recently there has been our demonstration farm that is south of Bloomington there, and you can see the drone imagery that was taken this last year was our first crop breakout across the landscape. So you have corn, soybeans, and wheat. We'll be doing that same rotation across the board, as well as 16 small scale plots that are really diving deep into looking more demonstrative visually. You know, having someone come up here and talk about hairy vetch or camelina, or the difference between cereal rye, barley, triticale. You know, you can hear about it all day, and those field days would be great to host in April at the busiest time of the year when none of you are available. So this demonstration farm really adds that value to seeing it for yourself in the field, hearing the experiences of, this is a McLean County, very representative of the soil type and what an average field would look like in the area. Something that we're not saying, you know, well, it only works for the timberland soils or soils of this certain type. You know, this can be representative, but also we want to keep in mind that there are differences across the state. So we hope you see more hosted here at the farm, that you want to attend. This is available if you want to call me up, and if you're driving by, want to take a tour. But we're very excited to have this farm as a demonstrative site. And I will say, I could stand up here and talk all day again about the importance of the audiences that you have. Having something demonstrative not only helps farmers, students, and those neighboring the field, but really those audiences that don't know much about agriculture and that have maybe presumptions or takeaways that they heard from one meeting, sitting here in a room in your nice clothing. You need to go actually out and see it and understand why these aren't a one problem solve or one solution fixes all, and that it does take time, and there is things that we need to be providing to farmers in order to making different changes if that's what we want to invest in as a state. So with that, you know, our demonstration farm we're very excited about, and like I said, south of Bloomington there, hopefully you'll see it as you pass by, that big sign. But we are stretching across the state. We're very excited. We had our first year of trials here this growing season in 2025 for our on-farm trial network. And so we are excited to see the farmers who have participated in this room. You will always be cemented in this foundation as we started. I'm so excited to see where this goes in the next 5 years because we learned a lot. But essentially, I also want to thank the farmers that participated, who signed up, who said, you know what, sulfur applications, been doing that for years. What are these people going to tell me more than I know now? And so thank you for challenging us for joining the system. And I think we did learn a lot. And a lot of the farmers have given us positive feedback. We host a lot of networking opportunities, a lot of opportunities to hear from our in-house agronomy team, Darby Danzel, Stephanie Porter, Dr. Stacy Zuber, Jennifer Jones, Jim Iserman, all working across the state to not only bridge the different applications agronomically we can do, but then scouting and seeing into the field, because that influences a lot of what we see on the research at the end of the year when you see that positive or negative yield return. But a lot of that stems from management and a lot of environmental variabilities that we want to help translate onto paper for you when you are wanting to make next year's decisions. Something that is also important is making sure that we're taking checkoff funded research that you have supported. You had the questions. But we only had a couple of sites when that researcher did that. You know, they only have a couple of grad students and can only go so far. Granted, they do a lot, but hey, let's take that over to Stockton, Illinois, all the way up there at the tippy top, or go down there in Carbondale. You know, what is that going to show from where the trial sites were originally, and really taking checkoff research to the next level. So please participate in this. There is a forum that you can enroll in. Deanna Burkhart, Whitney Miller are here today. They would love to help you enroll. You can enroll today and just think about, you know, I just want to be notified of what's coming up, not necessarily excited about putting anything new on this next season, or sign up for something new today. So our cover crop one closed out. We are looking at cereal rye versus barley, not only from the strategic application of barley versus cereal rye for the crop aspects, but also for weed control just in general, of how we can use biomass as an attack on our weed control limitations that we have with our tools now. It's very exciting to see this. Our double crop is open to enroll in now. We are looking at plant populations with double crop. We have our sulfur 2.0 we're doing this year, so please, if you're considering wanting to do a sulfur application on your field, consider sulfur. And then we have had Nick Sider come along with us for his next round of, he's looking at foliar and seed treatment insecticides. I will say I really enjoyed at our forum, we had Dr. Aaron Hager, Dr. Nick Sider, our entomologist, and Dr. Boris Camilletti, our plant pathologist, all on a panel. And good golly, we might need to study mental health with them, because their challenges are daunting and quite bleak. It is, you'd think the room would be doom and gloom, but they had people, I was laughing in the back row there. They had quite the interesting take on how we're tackling these challenges. And it's really great to see researchers converse with us like they understand what we're doing. And I really value the engagement that the university has with their farmers, and to see that back and forth was really fun. Nick Sider, though, I think caught some people's eyes or ears or thoughts, because he's really looking at, is that foliar insecticide worth it? Are you gaining anything? He's not there to sell you insecticide. So if it's not worth it, if we don't have the thresholds, if we don't have the pest, if we don't have the environment, we don't have that triangle, you could save some money there. And then vice versa on anyone who has been doing long-term conservation systems with cover crops, it's always talked about that seed treatment. Can you save some money on the seed treatment? Naked seed, are we battling the wrong pest? If we have different variables like slugs coming in, always a fun one to go take pictures of. These ground beetles that you see up here that could be compromised by the seed treatment are your beneficial enemies against those slugs. So making sure that we're creating the ecosystem that you're cultivating out there. If you've got conservation as your priority and your investment, we want to make sure that the other agronomics and the applications that you're doing are complementing that. So these are very exciting trials. I could go on and on about them. I am looking around this room. There's no clock in my view, so someone's going to have to cut me off. But please enroll in these trials, ask us questions. We have our protocols, so if you're wondering about field size, your equipment capabilities, the time and commitment, we have all those answers today, and we'd be excited to share with you on these trials. And if you have neighbors or friends or family members that would also be interested, please share. So checkoff-funded research is our bread and butter. It has been here before my whole team started and will be here long after. Dr. Rachel Van, we're so excited that she has joined now the U of I team. She gave a great talk on late season soybean challenges, taking it to the next level. Every year I hear someone talk about defoliation and questions about, should I, shouldn't I? Have you heard of anyone trying it? She asked those questions, as well as talked about soybeans science for success, where 20 land-grant universities come together and tackle big questions. And she talked about biologicals. And hearing it from 20 land-grant universities is very different from hearing from a salesman and hearing it from an industry angle. I take both very, with grains of salt. Both have the science behind what they're doing and the drive and the information. And I think Science for Success and utilizing her program that she is jointly working with is really important to hear from. So please, we'll have Dr. Rachel Van as much as we can and help support her here in the state of Illinois. I do want to promote, we are excited about our outreach and what we do in the field. I will say I don't like dressing up. I like going and putting the boots on and getting outside. We have been routinely hosting field days. This one's taken over in Western Illinois. Tim Clark on our committee over there in Hancock County as well comes from also a farming, but also industry angle as he works in that area. And so to be able to bring either the university or our own team out there and just talk about what we're seeing in this field. I could stand up here and all day and tell you red crown rot's going to be the next problem, who has heard of SCN or what's coming down the line for these herbicide issues. But sometimes that year, the weather, what we're going to see is you got to go out and see it that time and be very actionable. And so that's what we do across the state. So please keep up with us and what we're doing. How you can also do that if you are a crop advisor, if you're working on your own farms, doing a lot of crop scouting, we encourage the Soy Envoy program, which is now open. Kelsey Litchfield, Lauren Hill here today have a lot of information on how you can get involved with Field Advisor. We have our latest crop conditions. Crop reports are pretty popular on the website where you can get the experts' take on what they're seeing in the field and keep up with it. The Soy Envoy system, Weston Olson on our committee actually came from in Bureau County through the Envoy program, and so asking him his experience, but we really want to encourage the networking aspect, working with CCAs, industry leaders, but keeping in mind that we are all here for a betterment of soybean production. Free SCN testing, our awards that we just handed out to Karen Corrigan and Chris Reynolds are all found on Field Advisor, podcasts, webinars. It's almost too much information. So you have to keep up with it. You have to sign up for the newsletter because there's something every week that's interesting and you don't want to miss it. So please keep up with Field Advisor and what we have going on. So with that, we are in the field. We are wanting to take you along with us. We are wanting you to challenge us, to ask us questions, and for you to get your checkoff return back on your farm. Whether that be us scouting your fields, doing trials, working with the students, FFA students, and what we do with the crop scouting challenge here that they do at the university, and building that passion for students to have interest in agriculture across the state. Things like red crown rot, SCN, things that we can be the leader and giving you firsthand information about what researchers are learning and how to translate those onto your field, as well as partnerships. Every year we do the soybean quality survey. This is with Dr. Seth Neve out of the University of Minnesota. Great work when we're talking about wanting to understand, okay, you got great soybeans here. How do we sell them? How do we keep Illinois #1? It's talking about your quality. You have very good protein, oil, amino acids. It's a complex interaction, though, with the varieties that you're using and the high yields and that translating to protein and oil. Sometimes you got to think about those things differently. And so networking with Seth, he's had done this work since 1996, has surveyed soybeans and all the varieties for all those years. It's definitely something that if you're talking about making strategic moves in marketplaces, what we want to do with Todd, we have to grow it in the field. So with that, whether it's the future of the young generation, working with researchers, so when we're in the room with policy, that farmer voice is heard along with the numbers that come from the state and reflect what is actually happening here, to the quality that we are needing to communicate to consumers and to those buyers in global markets, and those who just want to learn more about ag. You can find it all in the production team. We are so glad to be able to work on behalf of you, and we're excited for this next season.